Good afternoon, everybody. So today is May 17th. So for those of you that may have forgotten, today's the last day that you can file your taxes. I know, Uncle Sam's always trying to get in our pockets, isn't he? So as you know, the last week I was out traveling the state. I was out in the Western Slope. And so what you got to see on my video was a kind of a collage of all the different places that I was at, all the different people. It was a great trip out into the Western Slope. Met a lot of great people, and I hope they're getting all the rain that they deserve, just like we're getting some rain here. You know, I hope we get more rain because we definitely need it. You know, Colorado needs a lot of moisture. We don't want to go into a drought. You know, so let's all do the rain dance because we need it. So let me talk a little bit about what's going on. You know, for those of you that have joined me today, you know, my name's Greg Lopez, and I am running for governor. I'm looking to make Governor Polis a one-term governor because I truly don't believe that he's doing what is in the best interest of everyone here in the state of Colorado. And so what's happened in the last couple of days? As you know, he removed the mask mandate. It's interesting, you know, that things are evolving the way they are and how things are changing from the perspective of, you know, the science. You know, the science is changing. And how everything is being looked at differently from a year ago. You know, remember last year? Some of you may remember that, you know, for those of us that didn't want to wear a mask, he called us selfish bastards because we weren't concerned about the health of others. And now, because of I believe because of the All-Star game coming to town, you know, baseball, the All-Star game's coming, and so he invited over 40,000 individuals from across the country to come spend an entire week with us. Why? Because he knows, like I know, that Colorado has always been safe. You know, he's been manipulating the numbers and trying to do a lot of fear factor, but now that summer's coming and the All-Star game is coming, all of a sudden, it's okay for us not to wear masks. You know, and he likes to talk about the vaccine, and he likes to tell you that the vaccine is the reason why this is happening. And so, it's interesting because if you follow the numbers, remember, he's a governor that always likes to talk about the numbers. And so, to use his platform, I'm going to follow the numbers as well. And so, let me just share some numbers with you. So, what's happened here in Colorado since COVID first appeared? So, remember, this was back on March of 2020. And there's 5.8 million people in the state of Colorado. And so, what we've done is there's been 531,000 cases. And again, go to the website the state website and look at these numbers. Don't just believe me. Go to the website. So 531,000 cases since March. So over a year. 29,216 have been hospitalized. 3 million people have been tested. And there's only been 6,562 deaths. Now, people have died from COVID-19, and so, you know, it's something that we should all be cognizant about because it's like anything else. You know, some of us have an immune system that we can overcome an illness and some of us do not. And so it's very important for you to use your best judgment when it comes to these types of things. But I want to tell you, these numbers have not changed. You go back and do the percentages, you go back and do the math, and the numbers are always the same. The percentages are not changing. Just to give you an example, I went to the Colorado website this morning and I just looked at some numbers. This is where I got the numbers from. And so, but I went in and they have these graphs that you can they're interactive. So if you move your cursor, it gives you the data. So I wanted to look at, you know, what's the difference between now and something at a date that happened last year. And so I ended up comparing, and here's some interesting facts. April 21 of 2021 against October 25th of 2020. Remember, in October, it was dire that we wear a mask. It was dire that we keep our distances. Restaurants were still shut down. You know, we couldn't do anything. And so why? Because it was very contagious and everything was going down. And so these are the things that we had to do to be safe. At least that's the term they want to use, right? So that we can be safe. So let's look at what happened on October 25th of 2020 compared to April 21 of 2021. And this is their numbers, okay? So how many cases on that specific day were reported? Well, in October of last year, there was 2,305 cases. In April 21 of this year, there was 2,363 cases reported. So basically, about 60 more cases in April 21 than there was in October. Now, what about the number of cases per 100,000? Remember, they always, all of a sudden, they shifted. Let's look at the cases per 100,000. So, 41 cases in April of this year per 100,000. In October of last year, it was 39 cases per 100,000. And I wanted to show you these comparisons because, as you can see, the numbers aren't that different. Yet in October, it was a totally different story from what we're hearing in April as to what's going on, right? So how many deaths? Well, there were 6 deaths in April of 2021 on April 21st, and there were only 4 deaths in October 25th of 2020. So I find these facts very interesting. You know, I think it goes to show that these numbers have never changed, not dramatically, enough for all of a sudden to say that, you know, the vaccination and so forth and how that works and this is why. Now let's talk about the vaccinations, right? Because what the governor is telling us is that, hey, now that for those of you that have been vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask, you know, because you're safe. And for those of us or those of you that have not been vaccinated, and I haven't been vaccinated because I've had COVID-19, I'm immune to it because my body has developed the immune system to fight it off. And so those are the 2 ways. If you study the science, there's 2 ways for your body to be able to fight off an infection or a disease. One is to get a vaccine, and the other one is just to be vaccinated through the illness. And that's what happened to me. And so if you're vaccinated, the governor says you don't have to wear a mask. He's not saying that if you've had it and you've overcame it, which means you're immune to it now because you've had it, then you too cannot wear a mask. Should not have to wear a mask. But he's not saying that. I find that very interesting, right? But he does say that, you know, even though the vaccine won't stop you from getting COVID-19, it's supposed to minimize the symptoms, and that's good enough because it's not about how many people are getting COVID-19, it's about how many people are having to go to the hospital. You know, and again, those numbers aren't changing. It's just very interesting how they're changing the narrative to fit his objective. And so I just want to remind you that, you know what, it's very interesting what's going on, and I still believe the governor is not being transparent. He's not being honest with us. You know, he tries to create a story that fits his agenda so he can move forward. But regardless, I'm glad to see that businesses are open. I'm glad to see restaurants are once again 100%. You know, the city and county of Denver is 100%. This is the way we should have been. You know, based on the math, based on the science, as I look at it, this is the way it should have been. But, you know what? No need to talk about the past. Let's talk about what we're talking now. But don't forget the past because you never know. That same mindset may come back. You just never know if it will or won't. So that's where we are with the COVID numbers. And I'm hoping that now we can go out there and spend time with our families. We can go out there and enjoy the outdoors. We can go to concerts. We can go, you know, once again, without the mask. But here's the interesting that I see. Even though the governor has said if you've been vaccinated, you don't have to wear the mask, when you walk into the grocery stores, when you go out in public, just take a visual count or just notice how many people are still wearing the mask. So if you're still wearing the mask, does that mean you're vaccinated or unvaccinated? Or can you even tell? I just find it very interesting the way the mind is working right now here in Colorado as it pertains to just people, how they're behaving and their actions and how they interact in society. I find it very interesting. We'll see what the next couple of weeks bring, But for now, I think I find that very interesting. So let's talk a little bit about what is going on outside of the mask mandates, them being removed and the restrictions being removed. What's going on in the legislature? Well, let me share with you something that I want you to be aware of. In the legislature, they are aggressively going after your guns. Our Second Amendment. They're attacking it left and right. Every session this time around, they have 5 bills that they're looking to push forward, and 2 they've already passed. But they have 3 more that they're pushing. And this is all because these people that are out there in the legislature, from my perspective, have no understanding of emotional intelligence, have no understanding of human behavior. They truly believe that they know what's best for everybody. And so what do? They look to pass laws. They look to pass laws. And we're going to talk about that maybe next week, about how many laws they pass in every session. I think you'll find that very surprising. So what are the gun bills that they've passed? There's 2. Senate Bill 21078, which says that you're now required to report if you lost your gun or if your gun was stolen. Think about that for a minute. You need to report whether your gun was stolen or you lost your gun. Now, traditionally, when you look at gun violence, as they proclaim it, it's not being done by law-abiding citizens, it's being done by others. So, you think criminals are going to report their gun being stolen? Or if they lose their gun? Of course they're not. So you really got to look at what is the mindset behind these bills. Here's another one. Mandatory safe storage of firearms. They want to tell you that, you must store your firearm correctly because it's dangerous. I wonder if they're going to, require some law that says that you must store your knives a certain way, or a hammer, or a screwdriver, or a fork. All these things that could take your life. I'm wondering if they're going to do that as well. But it's very interesting how they want to carry that moral flag, that moral banner that says we're saving lives. When really what they're doing is just creating more chaos for the law-abiding citizen and more heartaches for us that want to protect ourselves and our families. So here's the 3 that are pending. Those 2 have been signed by the governor. Here's 3 that are going through the legislative session as we speak. One is House Bill 21-1298. That talks about expanding firearm transfer background check requirements. So if you transfer the firearm, now they're going to expand the requirements for background checks. There already are laws to that, but they want to expand it even further. So you have to ask yourself again, why? We already have a law that does that, but you want to expand it even further. And these are by people that don't even know how the gun laws work. They're just creating new gun laws. So here's another one. House Bill 21-1299. Oh, you'll love this one. The Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Yep, you heard me right. The Office of Gun Violence Prevention. So what is that? Well, it's a new department, right? It's going to have a director. It's going to have 2 full-time employees. And their entire job is to educate the community about gun violence. I guess that's no longer the responsibility of parents. That's no longer the responsibility of the police officers and the sheriffs, or the responsibility of gun owners or gun shop owners. Now it's the government. The government is going to educate because they know what's best, right? They know how to educate us. They know what we should know and what we shouldn't know. All these things. Now think about it. So here it is. Office of Gun Violence Prevention. That's another bill. Here's a third bill. Third bill that's coming through. Senate Bill 21256. Senate Bill 21256. Local regulation of firearms. So what does that mean? That means now that city councils and counties and special districts can pass their own rules as it pertains to guns within their community. But here's a interesting fact. They can't make them less than what the state requires. They can only make them more severe than the state requires. Think about that for a minute. So the state is saying, we know what's best, but if you have a community that decides it wants to do even more than we've done, because you believe it's safer in your community to do that, then you can do that. But if Your community believes that what the state is doing is overreaching and it's too heavy-handed when it comes to guns. Oh, no, no, no. You can't change that rule. You must still maintain it. Talk about a double standard. Talk about really, evaluating how the state wants to continue to take away our Second Amendment. All this is wrong, folks. All this is something that I, as your next governor, will not stand for. This is not what the legislature should be doing. They should be passing or removing obstacles so that businesses and education and everyone can live the American dream. Instead, they're creating more obstacles, all because they believe they know what's best for you and me. They know what's safe for us, right? The law-abiding citizens. And so you need to watch what's going on. So let me just close with this. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Yes, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Now, with everything that we've been through the last year, with everything that's going on, we all know that mental health is skyrocketing, not only in our teenagers and our younger children, but also in adults, whether it pertains to having to be more addicted to drugs, more alcoholism, all these types of things. People lost their jobs, people lost their futures. The farmers are being attacked, the ranchers are being attacked. Seems like everyone is under attack. And so, don't forget, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I encourage you, look after your friends, look after your family, give them a hug, let them know that you care about them. As you know, it's going to take all of us to make sure Governor Polis is not reelected. So I'm going to ask you, go to my website, Lopez2022.com, make a contribution, make an investment into the future of Colorado. Let's make Colorado, Colorado again. I thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.